season, was the highest points earner in the American Tacticians Crown Circuit as well, right? So a strong player overall to work with. And I will believe we're going to see something fun here. We're not quite going to see a crap rave. Are we actually going to see that? I'm going to believe it when I see it.
I'm here for it.
They're still standing on it now. They're going to go back over. We're going to get the artifact anvil, though. But this is going to be a combination here. This portal opens up interesting stuff. We saw yesterday out of the Falcons team, the reliance and it's really strong stuff on the likes of that Mittens Kassadin.
All right, gentle friends, we are getting into our last quarterfinal. The winner of this goes on to play either T1 or branching out in the semi-finals. We'll be joined in a second by our third caster, Stuart, to come and join onto the field. As we've already established, Artifact Anvil will be online, so there will be a decent amount of variability coming out of our early game.
Just catching my breath a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure moments ago you were on the analyst.
I know I'm dashing. I know I'm dashing, but now I really haven't have the breath taken away from me before.
These shoes running up the stairs, that is not good. That is not a good idea. But no, I'm really excited for this series. I mean, as I was saying on the analyst desk, I feel like this is actually going to be a pretty close series. I feel like, in general, Toronto Ultra have been performing pretty well in the 4v4 format.
Well, we do. Of course, we've heard from Stuart already on the desk. From your side of things, we've seen multiple predictions cursing the Toronto Ultra side. Are you going to be the third person to make that happen?
I mean, it's really tough. Look at who they're up against, right? You're looking at Juanma, you're looking at 60 Seconds, two of the most storied players in that Chinese space. Juanma, again, potentially the undisputed greatest player of all time across the entirety of the TFT sphere. But this Toronto Ultra team, Peter, they were put together because they're a good unit. Like, that was a big thing that they were looking for in the 12 was a sign. They were looking at players with good team experience. They brought in Relic, and then the rest of the team kind of came together around that.
Well, so just to expand a little bit on what we were saying there, because I think it's really important for this one and reflects on our talk across the tournament overall, as we do see gold augments coming in and maybe some spice. You know, a team put together purely for their teamwork potential, and so far the teamwork seems to have been paying off.
Teamwork's paying off for both of these teams right now. I think especially for Twisted Minds as well. I think the big thing was that comeback victory that they got yesterday against MSJ. They struggled in day number 1, but in day number 2, day number 2 yesterday, they actually performed really, really well. I should say previously today, day number 3, they performed really well. So getting that comeback victory, this is their second best of 3 of the day. We already saw the Weibo Gaming lost their second best of 3 of the day. So can Twisted Minds maybe pull up the curse? Who knows?
It's going to be definitely something that's going to be super important to keep an eye out for here, right? And again, also the first round of augments coming through. We saw the school matchup being brought out in that ever so insanely well-played game 1 from Nadis Vincer earlier on today. This time around, we get to see it on the way from 2-1. One of the strongest augments in the game. Getting those items onto the Eldritch Summons is such a powerful thing for tempo.
Yeah, School Mascot is fantastic. On the other side, though, from replay, we can see another very powerful choice. Going to be bringing out, of course, early access to Syndra is obviously fantastic. We'll see where we go from here as we keep checking in. Of course, we've got the Spellblade coming through here as well. And Relic picking up the Spoils of War. Golem and too healthy on this side of things. 60-second with a potential very good game.
Spoils of War is definitely an augment we haven't seen too much for in this tournament. I think it is very, very risky because if you're not playing for tempo and if other players are also trying to play for a win streak early on, it could be really, really costly. But we saw in the previous series, Soju 2 win streaks in a row. So if you can do that, it could be pretty good.
Yes, worth noting again, just kind of sticking here. We're going to see the 2 support golems coming on here. Standard procedure. We know this is one of the most powerful augments in the game right now. But just to stick with that Spoils of War here, and normally you would think, okay, cool, like you get all the extra resources in the early game, but it's actually not necessarily an early game augment most of the time. It is very strong in the late stages of the game. With so many accessory units on the board, there are a lot more changes to start farming. And if you stabilize, it's kind of like having Fortune Online.
Well, we've got the chance to double down for Relic here. The Mogul's Mail being picked up, of course, from the Artifact Anvil early on. And with the Spoils of War, well, if he can have a strong early game, and this looks like a strong early game, he could be rolling in money.
We know right now that Mogul's Mail is one of the strongest artifacts in the game, especially with Goggle's Stone Plate on top of that as well. You can get so much extra gold over time. You're getting gold from Spoils of War, gold from Morgan's Mail as well, so it could be extremely scary stuff at the moment.
But it's worth noting that he might be too strong to even get the stacks rolling here. This Shyvana 2 is an absolute menace, right? And sure enough, it's not necessarily a huge downside, right? But like it is still something where you might have to wait a little bit until other people kind of catch up in tempo and board strength for that to really come through here. Another thing we've seen kind of all throughout the weekend so far, Peter, have been these players that are going to go for the Syndra. Not necessarily open forwarding per se, but definitely playing for the Lost Week for those huge 3-2 roll downs to really like restabilize the tempo in the game.
Yeah, and of course, you know, we've got another artifact coming in the Manzane, meaning that even if this is all a board on the weaker side, we've got a decent enough front line to mean, especially with the Manzane coming in, we're looking at a decent amount of stacks coming in every round.
For the Manzane, you can actually make sure that you get the extra cast off on the Syndra as well, which is going to allow her to stack even more during the early stages of the game, so it means that you can keep on stacking. I think in general, though, the kind of comparison between day 1 and also day 2, day 3 as well is that we've seen, it seems like a lot less Syndra reroll and more Syndra playing for tempo as well. The roll downs at 3-2 can sometimes be a little bit difficult, as we see finally the first bit of gold there.
There we go.
It came out in the end, only took one more round. It took the extra gargle on the other side from Elise, but you're seeing that how much extra gold you can get on top of it, because I think a lot of people might not know that with Morgan's Mail, once you reach that maximum
With
stack,
Morgan's Mail, I know he's
Morgan.
Morgan's here. He's always been here.
I've been talking to him way too much to be
To be fair, the guy who walks around, he just leaks money everywhere. That's entirely, I believe the actual thing was based on him originally, but just taking stock of where we are overall in the game. So Robin Song's up at the top, has got everything going on.
I mean, here now we have the listenings coming through here, just kind of like hearing how these teams communicate. Just like buying some time for that as well. I think it's super important to kind of get those live listens and to really hear that team dynamic working.
Especially during a carousel as well, right? I think that's such a big thing because communication is so important. Whether you want to deny away a component, actually grab away a component as well is so big to make sure that you can actually get the best items for yourself, but also deny the items as well, even units as well from carousel.
All right, so again, to take stock of where we are, Robin Song is keeping the win streak going. Michael looking pretty good as well. Down at the bottom of the table, I believe the Toronto in a pretty decent shape down there. Additionally, we can see, of course, we noticed a couple of the golems coming in. Toronto, I think, have done very well out of this early part of the game, finding a lot of the augments they really wanted to get off to a flying start.
Yeah, again, when you get the full overview of the leaderboard, we can see when the lost weeks are coming in. So far, they haven't been griefed. Right? We saw a very focused game plan on griefing the lost weeks earlier on from the likes of that Falcons roster. This time around doesn't seem to be that heavily of an investment from the Chinese side of things just yet here. As we can see at the bottom of the screen right now, it is in fact going to be double Twisted Minds right now at the bottom of the leaderboard trying to build up those lost streaks.
Yeah, lost streaks in general definitely is a lot more reliable than win streaking, because some of the win streaking can be a little bit difficult, but also because 2 Twisted Mind members are also on the lost streak as well, it can also be pretty difficult, because if they come up against each other, then it's a situation of who do we think is going to be more favorable with the amount of gold that you can get from lose streaking.
I suppose the only advantage here with having those 2 members be on the same team, you can kind of make that decision right now and say, okay, I'm just going to play a weak as board as possible, put my carry in an unfavorable position. Of course, CEO is wanting to keep the Syndra stacks coming in. We'll see if they go face to face. Certainly, we'd expect to see the school mascot get the job done, as it looks like they will not be facing each other.
But it's worth noting here as well that we kind of see the first overview of like multiple Syndra players in the lobby. We have the school mascot cab out. We're going to have the 2 healthy as well, and alongside that, you are going to see that Spellblaze on top of that on the other side of the field. So you have 3 vastly different Syndra compositions here that will cap out in very different ways here, which means that we have different avenues of approach.
It's worth noting as well, we did get a little glimpse of Michael there running the Cogmore composition. Of course, part of the equation is always going to be that possibility is open. I don't believe we've seen anyone contesting in the lobby so far.
I don't think we've actually seen any Khazadins as well, from what I remember. I don't think we've seen any multi-strikers in this lobby. We see about 3 or 4 players contesting Syndra, which is so important because they're going to go for different comps, as you were saying, Wheater, but Khazadin doesn't seem to be a priority.
I mean, again, it's going to come down to the fact how 3-2 is going to look like, right? Because again, you are going to see players that will have the rage play slam, will have the ability to go down that route, and then look around and say, you know what, we're actually uncontested here. We can go down this route as well. Again, it's worth noting here that Toronto Ultra, pretty much every game they've played so far, have had someone on Cogmore duty, right? Robin went bottom with it quite a lot yesterday in the first 2 games, and then Relic kind of was done, finished 3rd in that final game that they played yesterday, right? So it is worth noting that it is something that keep in mind that with them being on contested Cogmore and getting extra units for free, all the power for these Crocs here, that something definitely is cooking here.
And it's worth noting, with the Kokomo looking decent for Michael, though not dominant certainly by any means, that we have got Toronto Ultra and Twisted sharing the win and loss streaks unevenly. 62nd with the win streak. Ziwei and Huame, as we mentioned before, managing to both maintain their loss streaks coming out the first round. So from stage 2, it certainly feels like Twisted Minds are in a good spot.
And there is a possibility as well that Twisted Minds with these 2 lost streak players can even keep on going all the way to potentially throughout until like 3-5 as well. There is a possibility they could skip each other, which means that you can see the gold at the moment, 62 and 56 gold.
But neither of them really want to do it, right? They are going to be on Syndra. They want to hit that Syndra 2, ever so important Syndra 2 here on this free 2 roll down. Both of them sitting well over 50 gold for now. We'll get additional economy to work with here. This second round of Augment Peter will be super important here to really figure out like what the tempo of the game is going to be. How hard do you have to push? Something like head front up coming, maybe play that incredibly high cap. The Golden Quest as well, still an option for these 2 lost streaking players.
Oh yeah, of course. We want to see more Golden Quest. I can't believe it got passed on in the previous series. Just absolutely wild stuff. But it looks like our 2 lost streaking players, as predicted, will be able to keep their lost streaks up, I believe. Okay, actually, maybe I'll have to eat my words. We have got Shyvana multiplying and putting down CC everywhere. The Zhonya's is in place, so I think it should be okay. But I think we're starting to see a little bit of a turn.
Oh, it was just a loss in the end for Huame. But I think the big thing is that even though these 2 players are both contesting Syndra, they're both playing for different styles, right? We got the Eldritch Augment on one side, we've got the reroll on the other side. So I think if you can just get the Syndra 2-star for Huame, probably going to push levels and try and get that summon to get even bigger.
Yeah, now we do see the roll downs coming through here alongside this round of augments. Ever so critical here. We've seen teams go all the way down to even sub 10 gold on these roll downs, trying to get those Kassadins. Trying to get those Syndras and Kog'Maws out of the pool here. Syndra 2 found already. Very important.
I think it's really interesting. Actually, Zue actually using one of his lesser champion duplicators from the Augment to get that Syndra 2 online. I think prioritizing that, hey, I don't want to roll below 20 gold. I want to make sure I get that Syndra 2 and stabilize my board.
Yeah, it's worth noting as well, because we know for a fact that we're not going to see the Syndra 3 be a priority. It's been so unlikely, it's so unreasonable to kind of expect to find him with the way Syndra is being contested all throughout here.
Yeah.
Just taking the tempo from that duplicate from team building you're talking about, Stuart, is definitely one of the biggest things to keep in mind.
Well, I want to kind of get into a little bit from what we're seeing from Huame, because Stuart, of course, you raised this was the Eldritch side of things. We're locked in there with the school mascot. It's not one we're seeing very much at all. But I'm liking, again, we're seeing that flexibility coming in from Huame, and hopefully we'll have the chance to hit those higher levels, with the Syndra 2 online and get the Eldritch really running.
Seeing in the picture-in-picture as well, Robin keeping his win streak. We saw this in the previous series for Soju. We've seen it quite a lot more in these games as well. Players trying to play for tempo, trying to play for win streak, and trying to cap out a level later 4-2.
Something also keep in mind when it comes to Robin's songs, historically speaking, he has been a player that kind of made his name on those really strong forecast-centered competitions, playing really strong tempo styles, known for some quite aggressive slamming of items that aren't necessarily seen as conventional. So him being in his comfort zone now as well, and also kind of a funny thing, as we have a complete split in the standings, as we have a 4-4 split going on at the moment.
That is pretty nuts. We don't see that nearly at all, apart from the very beginning of the game. I kind of want to bring into the conversation here. Huame, of course, the lost streaking player remaining in place for Twisted Minds, but of course, them being on the bottom 4 means that every single one of those players has taken big hits early on.
It looks like Huame also used the duplicator as well to get that Syndra 2, so I think realizing that he is pretty low on HP, he is on the 7 lost streak at the moment, 55 health. So again, players prioritizing that tempo for Syndra instead of trying to play for the Syndra 3 win out. I think it's going to be extremely difficult though, because with 2 Twisted Mind members contesting that Syndra, you don't want both of them to really play tempo and try and contest the Nami later on. You kind of want to try and make at least one of them reroll and one of them tempo. So I think it's going to be interesting now how the game kind of wraps out for Twisted Minds.
Here's Michael, breaks Robin's win streak as well in a one-unit fight here. Not ideal, but not necessarily going to be the end of the world either. Robin sitting chill at about 50 gold. Michael now on his way to establish a stronger win streak. And if Michael's going to be the stronger of the 2 players overall throughout the back end of stage 3 into stage 4, that will be a big deal here onto this carousel.
I mean, if you're a Toronto Ultra, if have Ring Robin songs drop the win streak, but then having Michael pick it up straight away is certainly a good sign of things to come. But still, what have you seen?
Recombobulator is there?
Yep.
It is. Snowy. What are you up to?
Snowy go for Recombobulator, finding a Varus, a Fiora, and also a Tarek. So not that bad in the end, actually, for Snowy. Taking the leveling augment as well as his gold augment, making sure that he can try and push levels. I never thought I would see in a game a recombobulator, but...
And it's turned into a pyro board.
Yeah, I think it looks pretty decent, to be fair. I mean, I think pyro in general, not really considered one of the best augments, best traits, sorry. But I think with what he's been given, it's pretty decent so far.
It's worth noting as well that pyro really struggles with the fact that Varus' cast animation is in a bit of a weird spot right now. It's not just that the unit doesn't deal damage, but for this comp to really be a threat for a win out, to be the hero play here as well, you need, generally speaking, very strong augments around that. You don't have a lot of combat power here. A lot of it comes in towards the patient starter, in towards that recombobulator. And you need an emblem of some kind. Get that Smolder online, get him up in the air, firing away the fireballs.
Well, on the other side, I just want to bring to the center of the conversation, Relic has managed to find a Karma here in Stage 3 with a blue buff and the Morellos as well. So if we're talking about players who find their Syndra and build on top of them, Relic's looking real good.
Snowy here pretty much struggling to break through. You can see the struggle that Varus has in terms of damage as well. Extra component here as well for Relic is going to be pretty good. On the other side here, we see 60-second with the Syndra 2 and also Mordekaiser 2 as well. Even though he is playing too healthy, Mordekaiser is still such an incredible tank to give Syndra more time to cast.
Yeah, absolutely right. I feel like that's been one of the most recent meta developments have been the fact that Mordekaiser has turned into one of the primary frontliners in the game. Not something that we expect a lot of going into the back half of the PPE cycle. I feel like most of the time people were selling him off in the early game from a box, but now he's really showcased himself alongside that Vanguard power trade in general.
All right, taking stock as we head to the end of Stage 3, we can see Toronto Ultra still maintaining good control. 60-second has broken away from the pack, but ZUA, Snowy, and Huamier, they're both, all three of them, around 50 HP. This is already looking pretty shaky for them.
Michael actually doing really well to actually kind of win streak and keep this streak going with this Cogmore. Most of his units are upgraded at the moment. It's about trying to hit the extra rerolls, trying to hit these 3 stars later on as well. But as you can see, just winning round after round. Is maybe going to struggle a little bit against the Spira Shogun Manazane on the Syndra. But the backline's actually doing quite a lot of damage here. Can the Cogmore do enough to actually take down the Syndra? It's going to be close. It is. And you can see the celebration for Michael. He knows it was a big round to keep his streak because he had such little gold in the bank.
And keep in mind as well, he took Robin's win streak here. So if he had lost this here, that would have been a very tough spot for this Toronto tempo game plan that have been going down at the moment.
I would really like to see, a 60-second as the only player from Twisted Mind in the top 4 at the moment. I would like to see him on a win streak as well, but that's not the case. If we do check out our picture-in-picture, we've got a couple of Karmas there on the bench. We're definitely moving into the later game.
Definitely are, right. Again, you kind of spoke about this already, right? The fact that the power of this Karma here now is both Relic and Replay currently rocking Karma. I don't know if you need to have your name to start with an RE to get a Karma this early. She always comes back around.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, jeez. Wow. Stuart, save us.
No, I mean, that was a good one, Wheater. I applaud that one. It was a good one. Wheater's full of puns today. I love it.
Okay, well, hopefully you won't be encountering too many of them if you don't have a replay emblem. 60-second again. The player who was really going to be the hope for Twisted Mind starting to slip down. Animal Visage at the front, looking to try and keep that Mordekaiser online. It does look a little bit like what would otherwise be Wukong items under other circumstances, but 60-second, he's stalled out, no streak.
Is that a Karma? Is that a legitimate Karma 2, by the way? I feel like it has to be, right? We're level 6 Karma 2 here for 60 seconds.
Wow.
That is most definitely an out to play for here as well, right? That's going to be a massive thing because he's also the player in the higher HP right now, being able to play spoilers towards the likes of Michael if he has in his pool, right? But it also just means that we have so many players in this Twisted Mind teams all anchoring around this Syndra for now. It is such a rough spot to be in here. Meanwhile, Snowy, right at the bottom here on a 5-loss streak, 0 gold. If he's not able to turn that around, that is going to be a clean race to the bottom for him. And that means that the rest of this Twisted Mind roster has to figure out a completely different game plan.
I think with 3 players near the bottom right now, Twisted Minds, I mean, they have to rely on 60-second, but also at the same time, we know with so many of their other members also playing Syndra as well, I don't think we're going to see any reroll Syndra this game. I think they're all just going to try and go for Temple, which could be troublesome for Twisted Minds because Toronto Ultra are definitely playing some different comps.
Taking a quick look at what Robin Songs is up to there. Board looking pretty solid. We are seeing the legacy of Fnatic coming back to haunt us once more. We've got Rise in the mix.
Yeah, we do see Rise here alongside with the benefit. This is a board set I play a lot of here, right? I think this is something to keep in mind, that this is just a strong tempo thing here. Rise, again, not normally a comp that you play from behind, not something you play to win out necessarily, But when you are in the spot of Robin here, this is again something I was talking about as well, the fact he played these tempo compositions, Rise is a composition right down the alley of the old man, right? Sees a little bit of himself in Rise as well here, and I think that's something to keep in mind. Like, I'm just saying, you know?
Like, how is he going to turn this into a shot?
I want to highlight the itemization here as well. Something I've seen people kind of avoid doing is putting the Morello on the Rise up and put it onto the Karma instead very often. And Rise is such an efficient user of the Morello Nomicon.
Now, you made your joke, Wee. You have to stick with it. You can't escape out into analysis. But let's get back into things once again. Replay. It's got the very good spot with the Zhonya's and the double Shojins here in the corner, which means Syndra is very hard to put down. The 3 itemized Karma, it's hitting too hard, though. A replay is going to take the big hit from Relic.
Yeah, you're seeing the AoE damage in the end as well as the Rise. Not going to be able to do too much damage this time, unfortunately, for Robin. But I think with that reinforcement, I think Robin's job this game is just to stay as high on HP as possible. Trying to make sure that he doesn't lose that much HP. But you're seeing kind of the struggle in terms of damage with the Rise as well. But Twisted Minds, I mean, we're seeing Robin playing a different comp. We're seeing Replay also playing a different composition.
Well, so let's talk a little bit about what we've seen from Twisted Minds in the tournament so far. We know that their style tends to be strong early mid-game. This game just doesn't feel like that at all.
It feels like there's been like some kind of confusion, right? Like they've been discombobulated in their communication. Just had a complete different read on like what this game is supposed to be played out like, right? A lot of players here angering around the Syndra. We've seen teams not doing that at all here. And again, if they're unable to find a way out of that Syndra, it is going to be a difficult spot to be in. Because look at Hwanmei right now. 17 HP. Replay also on a long loss streak here, has not been unable to turn that around, but he still has a good amount of life on Hwanmei, who is currently looking like he will be going out in 8th.
Yeah, I think the big thing now is because Twisted Minds have, like you said, been contesting so many different Syndras as well. It's so different. Hwanmei surviving on 1 HP, but it still doesn't look good, unfortunately, for Twisted Minds as well. And I think yes, something happened during this early game for Twisted Minds that didn't work out because we saw both players for Twisted Minds actually going for the lesser champion duplicators on the Syndra early game.
It's worth knowing as well, we saw from Robin's songs here, 2 good losses in a row right now. He's trying to bleed out, trying to like just give us as much time with someone like Michael. There's a much higher cap to play for Michael, chilling at the top of the standings right now. But again, 62nd here, free win streak. We're talking about Snowy as well, needing to kind of turn it around. Back on a loss streak here now on top of that. So, bit of a rough spot to be in.
Yeah, I mean, I do take what you were saying before about the slow decline from the top makes a lot of sense. The baton pass we talked about so many times. I do want to bring to the conversation of a Replay and Hwanmei on a single life, a Replay on a couple, but with a massive streak behind him. Still has the potential to pull himself out of a 7th, but again, right now it's looking really good for Toronto Ultra.
I think the big thing now is just as long as Replay doesn't go 8th, which it seems like it does, I think in this tournament, especially in this format, I think the big thing is not actually getting near the top, it's actually trying to avoid that 8th place, because that 8th place with only that 1 point means that you need to try and counter out that on the top side in terms of leaderboards.
And it's where a spot like Robin's becomes super important here, right? Because again, he's trying to bleed out into towards that top 5, top 3 area, right? So he's not the ace player here. The ace right now seems like to be Michael, who's putting up to success here. And then we have Relic also in a very good spot. He found that very early counter set up to play around.
62nd might end up knocking his teammate out here. We'd assume that his board has been made weaker, though we can see the Mordekaiser we were praising before staying up pretty well. Was kept on the extreme flank, so maybe intentionally 62nd opening up his back line, but it might not matter anyway. Surely not this way. Hwanmei is the first one out.
This is really bad, I think, for Twisted Minds. I think in general, they've completely lost it in this game, I feel like. I mean, we don't really see a situation like this, but I think in general, seeing 2 players contest Syndra, not just for the rerolls, but for the other units as well, is such a big thing. And knocking out your own teammate, not realizing that they're in your pool as well, and you have the opportunity, not making your board weaker. Such a big blow here for Twisted Minds.
So it's worth, there are different ways of approaches, right? Because the thing is, he's in a spot where he can win streak out of the stage here. From Hwanmei's spot, no matter what here, would be very difficult for him to beat Replay anyways here. So for 62nd, like, there's no reason for him to waste this HP in the overall HP game, because we have seen how important excess lives are when it comes down to those top 4 2v2 situations. And that is one of the reasons why we need to look at this here and say 62nd and Hwanmei, they're probably spoken this out. They have a very strong team dynamic. They realized it didn't matter. If it happened the right way, sure, why not? But it's not the overarching game plan.
Well, we can see the Rise on the other side doing a pretty good job, I believe. that should be able to win out the round and hand Replay one of his 2 remaining lives in the game. So we'll hopefully be looking to retire gracefully from this one in what's still looking like a very strong position. 62nd on the top side there. Might fall foul of his teammate, but no, barely holds on.
Okay, business. Good 1 unit loss. They're coming out here, buying time for the teammates to figure out a new game plan going in towards the Raptor round. The final influx of resources coming through here. Something major has to drop for the likes of the lower half of the Twisted Mind players. Both Snowy and Weird, they are looking to be in very rough positions here, and if Replay can somehow manage to snatch out a win, Stuart, that could be absolutely insanely good for Toronto Ultra.
Yeah, they need to make sure Twisted Minds right now, Snowy or Zooey, needs to go into this top 4 right now. They need to try and catch up in terms of HP, because right now, Relic, Michael, and Robin, even though Robin is on a loss, as you said, Wita, just trying to make sure that his losses are not as bad as the rest of his team as well. As we see the roll down happening here for Relic, incredibly strong board with that Karma, which we've been seeing, probably one of the strongest forecasts at the moment. Does also have the Callista. It's probably scouting around to see if anyone else is playing Callista, but as we mentioned at the start of this game, no one is playing multicasters this game. This might be the first game that I've seen this tournament that no one's played Callista at all.
It definitely does feel like we've kind of narrowed ourselves into several lines. And something I want to bring in from Relic as well, we're seeing the Fiora coming in as a secondary piece there, as a damage dealer, as we're rechecking with replay. You guys said before, if you can hold on for just a little bit longer, maybe he can sneak out a 6th place, which would be a huge advantage for the team overall.
Yeah, we have that Callista too that Snowy has found his way into, so we did get to see a little bit of that action coming in, but we know from the data that if you don't naturally fall into this, it can be difficult. But looking again, we see the Fiora, we see how powerful she is once you get into that back line, and even with that Sonya's Paradox, there is going to be no confusion today. Replay out in 7th.
And Snowy now needs to try and catch up on HP. We'll have to see if Robin has also lost his round as well. And Robin actually winning in the end. So it's Michael on a loose streak as well. But it's still about 10 HP difference at the moment. Snowy, noted, is on a 3-win streak now. So has stabilized his board a little bit to make sure that he is able to get it going. So right now, it's up to Snowy to try and go near the top, because 62nd right now, 73 HP. He looks like he's trying to guarantee that 1st place, but the Twisted Minds need another player up there.
And he needed the goal to be able to cap out. Right? One of the reasons why we talked about before, he couldn't sack to Wanmei here. He was in such a good spot to take this game and run with it. Right, the most important players right now on this Twisted Mind roster is going to be the 2 players at the bottom 5 at the moment. If either goes out here, it is going to be a tough road for 60 seconds.
Yeah, we're keeping our eye on the left-hand side to see if ZUA can hold up. It looks like the board, the Cogmore board isn't fully online as yet. We don't have a 3-star Cogmore, so we'll actually take a fairly substantial loss. Snowy on the other side. We see the Callista's doing some real good work there. There is just a little bit left of the tank, and no, it's not good enough. We're starting to see Twisted Minds dropping that precious HP.
We saw 62nd as well, getting a 3-star Syndra out of nowhere as well. We're not too sure how that's come around with so many contestants in the end as well. Pretty good loss though in the end, 62nd only winning by a few units. But again, as you mentioned, we are keeping that win streak is so important to keep that momentum rolling.
And I want to throw it back to what you were talking about, Peter, right? Because the thing you're looking at here, right, Michael, he was looking in such a good spot, but again, the lack of that Cogmore free for a long time has now meant he's been bleeding out to a point where he is no longer a guaranteed top 4 fit. And the second that he starts falling out of the way here, and we also know Robin is going to on a bleed-out game plan, Relic can just step it up. And 62nd is just too strong right now as the hero player. It opens up a grand avenue for Twisted Minds.
Yeah, we're starting to move back into the territory where Twisted Minds could conceivably get back into this one. If they have 3 players drop in the bottom 4, it's over immediately. But you're right, the HP for Robin and Michael is not looking good. With Zero getting a solid win here. I didn't realize actually hitting their comrade. Yeah. That's not ideal.
I don't know if that's really the best outcome for Twisted Minds. I feel like maybe Snowy might be a little bit, well, in that instance, not stronger, but maybe in terms of the rest of the lobby. But Zooey on a 3-win streak right now. Robin Songs, though, is losing momentum in this game.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we knew that would happen for sure, right? Again, we can hear the players talking about what's going on as well now, trying to figure out how they're going to navigate this carousel the best way possible.
All right, General friends, what's your feeling at the moment? We were very much in the favor of Toronto Ultra before, but Twisted Minds do seem to be coming back. Are you starting to become a believer in the Chinese side?
I feel like I'm a believer in the old men though. I'm a believer in the rise. I'm a believer in the rise.
Grab his head for good luck.
I believe the rise can still pop off here for Robin. I mean, he needs to just make sure that he can try escape a top 4 here. Just trying to roll down a couple of more of the upgrades. I think the big thing, he has the rise at the front line, but he doesn't have that 2-star front line to actually protect the rise for him to ramp up.
So the way though the rise comes normally cap bound is around having that Nora secondary carry with any of your excess AP items. You don't have the Karma alongside the Galio and Vex frontline, such a efficient frontline here, and they are going to be going up against Michael and Robin here. Very important fight to kind of navigate. And meanwhile, on the other side of the field, Stuart as well, Snowy in dangerous territory.
Yeah, I think it's extremely difficult now for both sides, both coming up against each other as well. The Rise is just not going to do enough damage, I feel like, to take down the Kog'Maw. So this could be Robin going down, but Michael still has hit his spike now with the Kog'Maw 3-star, the Tristana 3-star as well. And I believe Robin's gone down. It doesn't look like his health's gone down yet, but on the other side, 1 unit loss is really, really good here, and it means that Snowy also stays alive. But Robin going down means that things have started to swap around.
Yeah, we can see a complete reset on the lobby, but we've got a huge amount of volatility. Snowy, TUA, they both got a single life each. 60-second is looking magnificent right now, but they're still not out of the danger zone.
So it doesn't see here as well, right? Again, matchup becoming super important here. At this point in time as well, anything like a desperate plea here could change up everything here. It is so important that the Twisted Minds players try to make use of their numbers advantage to the best of their ability right now, trying to take out and deal as much damage to the Toronto Ultra.
Let's go around again. ZUA again holding on the edge of the night, going up against Relic. Relic did struggle in the previous round to get all of that damage through. The Ginsu is a blue buff, trying to cast as much as soon as possible on the backside. They just don't stay up. I don't think Relic can win this one. On the other side, Snowy up against the 3-star 2 cost and actually ripping through them as well.
Looks like the Snowy going to be able to win against the Ghost. Rui also winning against Relic. So Twisted Minds right now on a huge comeback here, and Relic on a 3-loss streak, which is pretty scary.
Yeah, again, like Relic unable to really fully be able to kind of cap out this board. So stuck with blue buff, rage blade, common, not necessarily the ideal situation what you're looking for here. Even though the Fiora went into the backline, took out the Cinder very early on, the addition of that Seraph 2 just dishes out so much damage, even with just a Moonstone Renewal.
I do want to bring you to the conversation here. It's a little misleading because the HP is so close. If Relic gets taken out in the bottom 4, this will be over immediately with 3 players down there. It looked like it was Toronto's game for such a long time, but this next round is going to be everything.
Really depends on who's against who. The communication has to be so key here. You have to pick your items quickly and make sure you communicate to see who's going to come up against who's going to be able to get the extra charms in this later stages of the game that can make a huge difference as well. It's just target dummies for Snowy, but that's going to give a little bit of front line to allow Kalista to ramp up during this fight. Big thing right now is making sure that Snowy and Zui can stay alive, but Relic also on 1 HP. He hasn't really upgraded his board. He's got 50 gold in the bank as well.
All right, one more time, Relic. Trying to hold on. He goes up against his teammate. Michael can likely absorb at least a soft loss here. This will let them hold on for one more round, which might send Snowy and ZUA out. It's going to be right down to the wire. Karma caught right in the corner. Should be able to do a decent amount of damage, but no. It's looking like his teammate might have enough in the tank, and Relic is dropped. With that, it's likely over. We'll keep an eye on the other Twisted Mind members to see if they fall down. Snowy is down as well on -11 to Relic's -9.
And that means that is there still a way? No, that would be. That puts Relic in towards the top 4 here. So Michael, if he's able to win out this game, it's an unlikely, untreacherous road to travel up the mountain here. It's going to take a lot more than 60 seconds, but that is who he has to go through to get there.
Michael needs to win this lobby now. He needs to win this to get the win for Toronto Ultra. But he's so much HP behind, and I feel like 60 seconds is just on such a big streak. The only player to hit that 3-star 2 class on the Syndra, and it looks like he's going to win the lobby here for Twisted Minds.
Yeah, it seems like it's almost a done deal. We'll go up against his teammate there. So Michael might get a reprieve for this round, playing off against the Ghost Ball, but 73 HP in a tank for 60 seconds. There seems no reasonable way. The Ghost Board, I don't think should give too much more trouble, but I still don't think there's any way through.
It's also worth noting, right, look at the amount of gold 60second has been able to hold on to now. And again, it all started when he decided to not give up his life for Juan, as we were talking about earlier on, was able to maintain an 11-win streak, just maintain that economy for as long as possible. And now being able to give out that HP in that ever so important advantageous situation in the late game here in the 2v1 situation.
I feel like Michael as well is just a little bit behind in terms of leveling for the tempo. He's gone for so many of these 2-star 3 costs to make sure that, 3-star 2 costs to make sure that he can try and get his board capped, but he's just a level behind everyone else. 60second now, level 9.
It's worth knowing, it was because of the delay on the Cockmore hitting, right? Even with like another huge contest here, just being stuck so far down the road, trying to get towards that Cockmore free, finding it way too late, unable to find those last 2 damage that, for example, would need to eliminate Wee, right? So it's such a difficult spot to be in.
Toronto Ultra had the game in their hands, but it slipped away from them. Michael needs to somehow make these 2 costs. Take down a huge ball, but wait a second. We're starting to see the power ramp up. We've still got a Syndra in play. She's still going to hit like a truck. She blows up the Cogma. Michael gets hit directly in the face. He's out of there, and this one is done.
Incredible comeback here from Twisted Minds. In the early stages of the game, we thought they might have blown it, with so many of these players contesting the Syndra in the end, but they made it work out. 60second in the end with that huge, massive win streak. He was the big win condition here for Twisted Minds, and Zui on that 4 win streak as well, being able to creep up into that top 2. So, Twisted Minds, incredible game for them.
And it looked like for a while you're talking about, too, right? They were down and out, but they found the way out of there. The Toronto Ultra's tempo game plan slowly but surely falling apart at the seams, being unable to find those last ever so important unit wins in those fights when they had the momentum, when they had the tempo pushed, and just being able to uncap out.
Well, gentlemen, of course, with this one being more of a formality for these last couple of rounds for MVP points, talk to me a little bit about what you want to see coming out from Game 2, particularly from the Toronto Ultra side.
I don't feel like they did anything too bad, to be fair. I think they all went for different compositions. They all had different game plans. The communication was great. I honestly thought it was Twisted Minds, the ones that kind of the communication wasn't really there because there were so many of them contesting Syndra. But I think just being able to understand and realize how strong your board is, and that realization of how much damage you can deal as well, is the big difference here to make sure they can creep into that top 2.
And especially also the fact that we didn't see a single Kassadin in this game, right? It's a very big deal as well, because there's 1 more 2 cost in the pool not removed, making it a lot more difficult to find that Cockmore free that you were looking for so desperately. Because if that Cockmore free is found 1 or 2 fights earlier on, all of a sudden, Michael is much stronger. So like how much he was able to dish out damage-wise, it would have been much more difficult to the Minds to put together that game plan to win the game.
And unfortunately for Robin Songs as well, he wasn't able to secure that top 4, right? He tried to play the reinforcement, he tried to play the Rise with the full win streak, wasn't able to secure that top 4. If he secures that top 4, that's maybe a completely different story here for Toronto Ultra. So unfortunately the game plan hasn't worked out for them this time, but they still have 2 more games potentially to go.
All right, do remember, of course, general friends, that is the first game of this quarter-final. Still at least 1 more to go to see Toronto Ultra try and come back and face this one, but let's start breaking this down a little bit more. She said there was a lot to like here from Toronto Ultra, but the finishing was where it was lacking. Yeah,
the finishing play here, unfortunately, with just Toronto Ultra not being able to hit the insane spikes in the end.
All right, general friends, we'll be headed to break. The Dr. Suleiman Al Habib Showdown will continue after the break. Welcome back, one and all. We're coming into what could easily be the last game of the night. We're in the quarterfinals here at the Esports World Cup presents Teamfight Tactics. And gentlemen, what seems to be a sure thing for Toronto Ultra slipped out of the hands and into the hands of Twisted Minds.
Yeah, I feel like in the end, I feel the early game was really, really good for Toronto Ultra. Unfortunately, not being able to hit the cap soon enough really meant that the right members of Twisted Mind were able to come out on top. I feel like Twisted Minds really have the momentum in this tournament now. I mentioned on the analyst desk before about how they lost that first game, that big massive shot against MSJ, but being able to get that comeback win this morning and now being able to get 1-0 ahead, it feels like they have the momentum now going in the series.
Yeah, it was very difficult as well. Like the fact that all those tempo game, it kind of just fell apart a little bit, right? The strong team play not being fully rewarded in the way that they have been practicing leading into this event.
And certainly, of course, you did bring up the contestation on the same lines, but towards the tail end, you could really feel the momentum shifting. But with all that said and done, I do believe Ian has got a special favor he's done for us to give us a little bit of extra insight into the series. So let's see what he's got for us.
TFT is going down right now in the arena over there, just a stone's throw away on the boulevard. But I've come out to take on a challenge that everyone keeps telling me is impossible. Knock down 3 bottles with 1 beanbag. It can't be that hard. See? Simple. What's everybody going on about? I don't get it. Look! 2 out of 2. Mum, I hope you're watching. I mean, that's not too bad, right? 2 out of 3. 1 more. Surely I get a prize for that. Surely I get a prize for that. I'm going to come back every day. Was that the prize? All right.
I think, honestly, Ian is a prize in of himself. What a fantastic showing, but for our teams here, the main prize they're looking for is a berth in the semi-final stage. Right now, it's got to be reset time for Toronto Ultra. I think, if anything, it's going to be even more frustrating to get so close to the win and then have it all fall away.
I think Ian definitely needs to maybe have a little bit of a team talk with Toronto Ultra. It seems like Ian's hitting the bullseye at the moment. That's exactly what Toronto Ultra need to do in this second game as well to make sure that they can bounce back. But I feel like they have the right plans. They have the right players. We talked about them before, having a boot camp. So they've been together for so long now, even if they are from different regions, with NA and also LATAM.
Yeah, well, talk to me a little bit about the boot camp, because, of course, it's been a big part of the team's preparation. The variance between the teams, how they brought themselves to the tournament, and then what they've done along the way.
I mean, again, you look at Toronto Ultra, right? They went over to Madrid, to the facility they have over there, spent a solid chunk of time really just honing in on this 4v4 format, really just being able to say, this is how we want to approach the game, set out that philosophy from day number 1. And that was one of the biggest question marks we had about this team, because individually, they've kind of been a little bit far from their peaks for a while. I think that's safe to say. Yeah. But as a unit, as a cohesive unit that they've been brought together as, they have performed in such an immense fashion since the start of this tournament.
And I feel like in this tournament in general, it hasn't really been about the star-studded players, right? As you mentioned, Wheater, it's really been about the teamwork, it's been about the communication. We see in general the underdogs really performing incredibly well in this tournament, the favorites already being knocked out as well. So it's really about making sure that you can communicate, see which compositions you're playing, and make sure you can adapt throughout the game.
We are heading into what could be the final game of the night, the final game in this tournament for the Toronto Ultras, who came in as the top seed for this quarterfinal. Twisted Minds played their lower bracket final earlier on today, and now it is going to be a split decision on the carousel.
All right, which one are we going to be getting? It's split between Prismatic, Prelude. Okay, I don't hate this at all. We're going to go in high variance from the very beginning.
And yesterday, we saw them with a Prismatic opener absolutely run with a multitude of game plans, going for that upgraded adventure, right? Getting that cash out through there for Michael on the Surrey reroll, bringing that to life. They are very aware, they're very familiar and very at home in what they had to do with the lines in a Prismatic opener.
And I think there's a few other augments to definitely keep our eyes on in terms of prismatics as well. Things like Builder Bud as well could be really, really huge. We know it can work well with some charms in terms of this little cheese strategy, but also the vertical compositions as well, right? The extra crowns that you can get, the extra emblems you can get for these vertical compositions can be a way in which Twisted Minds can win out lobbies, which has been something that they've been doing so well this entire tournament.
Yeah, I'd like to see them move maybe a little bit away from what we saw last time around, where they just didn't have quite enough gas to get across the finish line. I'd love to see at least one person coming in with something that's got the potential to really shoot through the top of the lobby and guarantee that first.
Yeah, looking at Robin here, was one of the people that got dropped an early lesser champion duplicator, really opening up some reroll lines, but will complicate some issues in terms of making those early economic breakpoints.
Yeah, we're 62nd at the moment as well. We also got the double Tristana on the bench already, kind of adapting and seeing maybe what can be a possibility. These two costs that are in the shop in the early stages are really, really important to kind of look around the boards, see which two costs are in the shop. Plenty of Kassadins and also the Carly on the bench as well. As I mentioned, you know, if you get dropped these two costs, even if it is a Kassadin as well, which we didn't see in the previous game, it can definitely be a really big eye-opener as well. A bow being dropped as well can mean it's a great component for Kassadin.
But it's worth noting here as well, right, with the early Hecarim being the stronger unit of the two here, holds on to that instead of the Akali and the Asher. Will not have multi-strikers online immediately. Pandora's items as well here would give us a very clear indication of what Snowy believes to be best in slot on the Kassadin.
All right, I'm absolutely here for it. I mean, this is an incredible start. Do remember again, friends, that Twisted Minds have got the one game advantage. If they can make it stick here in game number 2, they are through to the semis.
Oh, chose to go with the Reforger here actually from the Charm. Gets a Spear of Hirana, but not the line we're going down here, not a Syndra line. And also look at the strength of these prismatic augments coming out on the side of 60 seconds. We're looking at Giant and Mighty. Oh, sorry, from the Twisted Minds. We're looking at Giant and Mighty. We're looking at Support Golem. We're looking at Prismatic Ticket and Pandora's items. Very clear direction, very clear lines to play for. This is a fantastic start for Twisted Mind.
What if you're on the side of Snowy here and you actually think to yourself, with that a Radiant Spirit Trojan now, it being such a strong item for Syndra, do you go down that line? I don't think you do with two Kassadins, but I feel like it's definitely playing on the back of his mind because there's such a big possibility. But like you said, that Reforger coming through, trying to get a better item here for Kassadin. Not working yet, but with the Pandora's items, it's going to roll every single turn.
And so worth noting as well with the Reforger here, given an extra early spin of the Pandora's items here, if it had gotten one of the best slot items on Kassadin, it would have given you even more direction in terms of like which component you would like to keep open.
Oh, for sure. We'll be looking forward to that as well. Of course, we've got the prismatic version of the All That Shimmers line, so we're going to be seeing the Gambler's Blade coming through as well. But Mogul's Mail on a line for Replay early on. Replay, of course, a global champion in of himself, set champion. You know, he hasn't really had the major time to shine so far in the competition. Maybe this start is what he needs.
Morgan's back again. He's back.
What's he doing? Oh, what scallywag.
He's back again. I mean, Replay, interesting enough here, hasn't slammed the Spear of Shojin yet. Maybe trying to look for a lose streak, even though he's winning the first round, and maybe realizing that he needs to kind of keep this lose streak going, but maybe kind of keep leaving his options open.
As I was talking about in the previous game yesterday, Robin Songs was very often the dedicated Cogmore player for Toronto Ultra. This time around with the Giant and Mighty and the early Tristana pair fully open footing here, because he is going to go back on that straightforward line, being able to kind of just start talking with his teammate about like how they're going to approach the game. He's back on Cogmore duty. Whether that's for better or worse, time will tell.
I'm kind of surprised to see the Prismatic Support Golem board not winning out there for Pyamier, but we'll see how things develop as time goes on. Of course, do remember, we are only on the Prismatic Preludes. We're not guaranteed to see it Prismatic across the board, but always excited to see one, as well as we check in on Relic, who, of course, has sought early strength as well.
Yeah, looking at a very strong support in the I'm the Carry now. One of the strongest augments in the game, as the items on the Golem also scale with the stages as the Golem itself levels up. And again, these extra free bodies from the augments that we've been seeing all throughout the set here have been so powerful in this tournament. And again, a very aggressive level 5 here as well on the left side of our screen. Yeah,
super aggressive leveling, I think, trying to play for tempo here for Zui. Already has the 2-star Seraphim Fiend, Poppy, and also the Lilia. But it's really about, if you are playing tempo, it's how you cap out your board. We've seen two different sides of that. You know, Soju in our previous series knew how to cap out his board with playing for tempo. Unfortunately for Robin, wasn't able to carry on the tempo and get that streak keep going, and unfortunately finished in 5th place now. So we have to keep an eye on Zui's board throughout the game to see how he's going to cap his boards.
Yeah, but I think that's a nice gamut, a nice small gamut from ZUA to get himself on top. You can see on the scoreboard right now, Relic is in the same position. So across the field, this is looking into a pretty even game start. Both teams, they've got the win streaker. Both teams have got the loss streaker.
And keep in mind here, Michael picking up that Kassadin here, trying to block that Kassadin 2, or the extra copy of the Kassadin from coming in towards the mix here. Just like fun to keep in mind here, again, like the carousel antics is such an important element of the 4v4 format.
Oh, for sure. To be able to block, be able to make, you know, just working as a team, it's just adds this extra layer in play. So again, ZUA, Relic, and then at the top, 60-second, and Robin Song down towards the bottom. 60-second, of course, we saw sort of amazing stuff from in the previous game. We see with the reroll chance here now, and the Syndra in early. Of course, sure, you're praising, you know, getting the Spirit Shojin in. We should be able to find our way towards a lot of Syndras, hopefully fairly soon.
Yeah, and Prismatic Ticket as well can go in definitely one of two ways. It's going to obviously give you a lot more extra rerolls, but sometimes we saw in the previous series as well that sometimes the Prismatic Ticket is not going to give you them extra Syndras. So sometimes, maybe for 60-second, it's actually going to be denying the other units on the other boards as well as try and hit in that Syndra 3.
See here, the Nash's gift has been found here off that Pandora's item with the Radiant item, right? So Snowy really going down here, really showcasing that you want to prioritize that Nash's here. A more recent development over the course of this tournament. People that kind of like vying away from that race going in towards the Nash's Death now gets that Radiant boost on top of that.
Yeah, I don't hate it at all to be a little bit more front-loaded, but you're still scaling with your ability as well. It's being a little bit less greedy, as we do see ZUA actually falling foul of Relic there. That's our two win streakers against each other. So at least from the early going, especially if Relic can win this round, to Ultra at least maintain the win streak advantage.
I think the big thing now is going to be near the bottom of the standings with 60-second and Robin both on a loss streak at the moment they come up against each other. Thank you very much. A good time in there from our observers. But knowing that Robin is playing a much weaker board right now, we know that his position is going towards that Kovmore reroll. If he can keep that loose streak, then it can be great. But is there a situation here where 60-second maybe sells his entire board and actually tries to... actually try and grease the lose streak, but no, both players come up against each other. I thought that would have been a possibility there for 60-second, and it was.
But again, it's worth noting here, does not want to give up those Syndra stacks. Again, the open forward strategy into Syndra, 3-2 roll down. We've seen it so many times already before, but again, Robin Songs on a much more expensive board here, so much invested in towards his Tristana, unable to meet that economic breakpoint here. So the better economy right now lies with 60-second, whereas a stronger unit upgrade itself lies with Robin. But that doesn't mean these 3-2 roll downs won't be important. They will be the most critical part about like deciding how these teams will have to kind of tempo out the game from the bottom of the standings.
And we know with 60-second as well, he does have the Prismatic Ticket, so he has more gold. He has Prismatic Tickets, so he does have a huge opportunity here at stage 3-2 to try and roll down to try and hit some of his units. All
right, we make it 2 Krugs. Relic keeps his streak intact, and both of our lost streakers do indeed. So you can see, for all 3 of our streakers, they've used that streak, particularly towards the bottom, to build up that bank count. Certainly, you need the money to get in those mass of rerolls to make that Prismatic Ticket really worthwhile.
Just looking at what's going to be going on here, it's going to be a super important thing to note here. Robin Songs picking up that Kassadin, right? Again, one of the benefits he's going to have here is that even if his game plan goes awry, he can pivot in towards that griefing line of play. Instead here, a bunch of bows getting dropped here as well. So he's going to have a lot of flexibility of going in towards his final game plan.
The tier and the bow being dropped as well means you can build the likes of the Spirit Shojin, the Rage Blade as well. We've seen a few times on
Red
the
buff on top of that as well. Could be a much better option as well, I think. Like killing both of the bows at the same time.
Ooh, double Jinx drop though. I think there could be a little bit of temptation to stray from the path of righteousness. There we've also got access to our early monkey friends. So I think for Robin Songs, it feels like there are some interesting windows opening up for him.
60-second pre-leveling here in towards that level 6. Wants to save as much time as possible as well.
The big thing is as well that 60 Second has been actually stacking up his rerolls as well. So he does have 4 extra
good
rerolls,
shout.
which is a really cool strategy that you can actually do right now. Is you can use a prismatic ticket to kind of save the free rerolls throughout the game, and this is going to be such an important roll down for him when this next stage comes around.
Yeah, really one of the most important system changes coming into
Yes.
Magic and Mayhem has been the ability to bank those rerolls, because there are so many augments now where you can pick them up. You just keep those free rerolls whenever you need them here. And again, one of the things here as well, keep in mind that you're talking about now, this reroll here will be much more explosive, Peter, and that's something we got to keep in mind, that this free 2 here now on the open side could flip the entire game around.
All right, yeah, absolutely. It's a very shopping spree of 60 Second. We'll see what he does with all these replays. Now he will tick over to level 6. We have Prismatic. We now go into gold.
Too healthy as well, hit for 60 Second on the right-hand side. This roll down is going to be so huge.
And the same thing happens here as well. We're seeing double right now as we've seen 2 almost identical rerolls coming through. It is going to be super exciting here. But keep in mind that 60 Second is trying to figure out his board while still sitting on a fantastic amount of gold. Like still sitting above 50 here, because as you're talking about, those bang rerolls coming through.
Robin Song's holding the Syndra on his bench, knowing this is the time to make sure your opponent is going to be that little bit slower out the gate. But you're right, Stuart not able to deny the 2-star at least.
The 2-star Syndra is going to mean that 60 Second is going to stabilize as well. But Robin knows that maybe he's not in a very good position right now, denying away the Cassidy, 2-star Cassidy on the bench, denying away the Syndra as well. And it does mean it's going to be a little bit more of a struggle as well, as you can see on the top of your screen right now. As replay on the other side has rolled down but hasn't hit his Syndra 2, or has hit his Syndra 2, sorry, and does have the Gambler's Bait giving him more gold at the time.
Yeah, that double econ situation coming through now for replay here will be a God-given fact for him as well. Will be fantastic here, will be something that he can really live towards, and will be absolutely amazing to watch unfold.
We did get a little glimpse there, of course, the Castellan board from before with the Radiant Zephyrs is going to be an absolute menace heading through this lobby. If you can't take him down, he's going to absolutely mess you up coming out of the round. Going to check in on, yeah, so Snowy with the win streak staying intact. This Castellan's time is pretty much now.
60 Second and Robin both losing their loss streaks as well, so it does mean they're not going to get the extra economy in their banks if they want to as well. So it has to be a big thing now, is do you want to roll down a lot of gold, or do you want to actually make sure you stay above 50? Snowy as well, also denying the Cogmores. So we're seeing so much denial this game, a lot more than what I've seen in any other game in this format so far.
So talk to us about this then. With this game being heavy on the denial, how does it affect the overall balance of the game?
It just kind of means that the people that have been able to maintain their HP, like Snowy here, like for him, sure, it might hurt his economy a little bit, but it's not going to impact his boards. It's not going to really do anything for him. Like, he can just hold these for a long time, whereas someone like Robin Song's all the way down to 2 gold right now. He is kind of going to be designated going down towards the bottom of the stands because he's not going to be as strong, but Michael on that free loss streak also kind of falling towards the bottom here is probably the bigger issue for Toronto Ultra. Robin's spot kind of a given that it's not going to be necessarily fantastic, but Michael has to find a way out of this.
Not looking fantastic. We do see managing to sneak out a win there, I believe. Michael on the 4 loss streak, Robin Songs on just the minimum 1. We'll head on to Carousel again and check on our overall game.
I want the tier if I can get it. Tier is really good for me. Okay,
2 important things picked up here at the start of these comps right now, right? Again, they're talking about the Kalista, very aware of that, and then replay calling out for the tier being super important for him as well.
It got taken no by Juan Mesa. The tier not going to be picked up here for replay. You're seeing how important the communication is during these carousels, denying away units, denying away the components as well. Replay not getting what he wants, but they're able to get the Kalista away.
I think this is a great way to show where the teamwork really is coming for the team, because there's a lot of data to pass in a very short amount of time. You don't know exactly what's going to be on the carousel. You have to account for your team, for the opponent team, and the order you're coming out as well.
But Michael has now gone level 7, has that Rage Blade, red buff, Spear of Shodian, Syndra 2 online. Is rocking a bit of a sketchy frontline right now with a Warwick 2, a Galio 1, but he has the outlines of a tempo game plan set up to work.
And I feel like with so much denial happening in this game as well, it's actually going to benefit a lot of the tempo players, right? Because these 2 costs that are trying to go into 3-star are not going to be hit as much and as early as possible. So it means that these tempo players can try and push levels, try and actually win a lot against these reroll compositions. So we could be seeing a completely different game than what we saw in game number 1.
Funny enough here as well, Peter, right? Like, Relic also anchoring around this Syndra for now here, could be going into yet another play off that portal rise line.
I mean, we would love to see it, but we have Relic getting the win there. But no, just to come back to Stuart's point, which I think is very relevant, the window of opportunity for these two cost, boards to be strong, I think has been really delayed, particularly the 3 costs as well. Maybe even removed from the game entirely when you say, we're not going to hit in time, we just need to push levels instead.
Right, coin flip here for Robin. Does get 2 gold from that. One of the best colors here as well. Now holding on to 4 copies of that Kassadin. But again, we know there's a lot of Cogmores on the bench of Snowy. Right now, Robin's song here, the biggest stabilization point for him right now will be potentially that free-star Tristana alongside the free-star Nuno.
Itemizing the Tristana over the Cogmore, realizing that he doesn't have any other Cogmores in his bench, which I think is a really nice adaptation. He knows that the Cogmore is being the big denial as well, but Nunu 1 away from 3-star.
There's also where how the early game panned out for Robin really came out to play here, right? With the early duplicator drop from the first creep round, alongside the fact that he had that Tristana 2 ready to go on 2-1, but still got the loss streak out of the way here. Very clear priorities of where his game plan was going to go, even if it is the worst of the 2 lines to play for.
We do see, actually, as much as Robin's Long has been kind of dipped out of the conversation for a little while, perhaps just about strong enough here against EWC, who's currently in the middle of the table. We're seeing that Tristana is actually punching up off her weight and cuts through the board. That will be a 2nd win in a row for Robin to maybe get his head above water.
It's worth noting he's on Giant and Mighty as well, one of the best combat augments in the Prismatic tier, so we'll have a ton of HP to work with alongside the 2 healthy. Just so much extra resources coming through for him.
I think the big thing now is going to be this roll down here from Ziwei when he goes to level 8. He has been playing tempo this entire game as well. You want to try and hit the likes of the Karma potentially later on as well. Doesn't really have too much in terms of the backline items. Has a lot in terms of the Bloodthirster and the Titans, which could be towards this warrior composition that we've been seeing with Fiora and Gwen.
We're going into stage 4 here, one of the most important stages in the game in general right now. So many things deciding. Do you hit your 3-stars? Do you find those ever so important Karma units? And looking at the HP totals as well here, Michael all the way down at 37. It is a tough hole to dig it out his way out of here. And now is the question, is this now just becoming on a full-on sack mode, roll down, hold all the units for the enemy team?
Yeah, I think Robin's definitely going to be struggling here as well. You can see Nidhi has 2 2-star Castins on the bench as well, really trying to deny the Castin away from Snowy. But we saw Snowy is in such a great position, and I think this is really cool in terms of just a whole general tournament. Being able to save HP when you are playing this reroll composition is so important because, hey, when Robin dies, then he can just save and reroll after that.
So if not right, again, we hear the pings coming out, so teams are painfully aware of what's going on around them as well. That is such an important thing to keep in mind, Peter.
All right, we'll see Ziwei on a loss streak right now up against Relic, who has not been able to get too much ground himself. As I think we mentioned before, Wida, things are not looking amazing for Toronto right now with 2 members towards the bottom and Michael in a lot of trouble HP-wise. This particular round, I think, just going to keep Twisted in a pretty solid shot. Huanwei starting to climb the standings, though.
I think Ziwei is in a really, really interesting position, right? He doesn't really have any backline items as well. He has more of these bruiser items as we go into our gold for the 3rd augment. So when that roll down does happen for him, be interesting to see where he kind of adapts and where he tries to put this board. But Michael as well, also with the caretakers, making sure that he can get that Radiant item. Few decent options here. Be interesting to see what he picks up.
Well, I mean, you were calling out before that the front line wasn't so strong, so maybe... No, it will not be a frontline item. It's going to be the Radiant blue buff.
The blue blessing coming through here. The Karma all the way to the left side of the screen that Michael's kind of covering up with his little legend right now is going to be the main holder of that. And look at how he's starting to cap out the sport here as well. Has the great disruption from the Nami. Will be able to play around the Nora on top of that as well. So full-on precision in the works here from the Toronto Ultra player. If he's able to figure this out and continue this win streak, it's a huge charge up the table coming in.
I feel like for Michael at the moment, though, again, his front line is just not good enough at the moment. He has the back line, he has the potential, he has the damage as well from his board. But can his front line actually tank through all this damage and allow this Karma and allow this Syndra to stack on up?
Yeah, I mean, certainly we've gone for the Mordekaiser itemization for the time being. Of course, we've got our school friend coming in as well from the Eldritch side of things. So I think there's a few bodies in place, and also, as you guys mentioned, the extra crowd control buying time. Michael gets a 2nd win in a row in, and maybe he can, again, start that climb.
Keep in mind as well, he's double combat augments on top of that as well here. So a lot of extra HP, a lot of extra resources and combat power in general coming on towards that board here. And when you have a board that's relatively stable, buys time, that is going to be an absolutely amazing situation going on.
Oh my, you got the grab bag as well as the Pandora's box there, being able to make sure you get the perfect items on the Callista. We're seeing pretty much BIS items on the Kassadin, the Rage Blade and the Red Buff on the Callista as well. Take a look at this board as well. We're seeing a bit more of a roll down come in, but we're seeing a few players kind of waiting in terms of their roll downs, especially from the likes of Snowy.
Yeah, when speaking of being able to hit your units, I do want to point out here, Snowy, as has been mentioned before, being heavily denied on the Kassadin, very heavily denied, but still in second place, even without his 3-star.
With the Moonstone Maneuver as well coming through from Wanmei here, right on towards the Smolder. That's a high cap coming through for this player right now. The question is whether that's going to be high enough here. It's going to be taking a bit of a loss here potentially against Snowy. Very important fight because right now, Snowy and Wanmei have a lot of shared HP to work with, and if they're able to get a good loss rolling here, that would be absolutely critical for the shared HP pool of Twisted Minds and give them so much more freedom to kind of figure out a game plan going forward.
Then the big thing is here for Wanmei, he's holding so much gold on his bench, more than double the gold that he actually has at the moment, so he really needs to try and stabilize his board, because at the moment for stage 4, his board is not looking good enough. There is a Smolder, and there is a Morgana, I was going to say Mordekaiser, a Morgana on the carousel.
Something that is jumping out at me to the side of the carousel is just looking at the gold we've got coming to the end of stage 4. Snowy, of course, we know has been denied for a very long time, but he's kept a ton of gold in pocket for when the opportunity arises to either push levels or try and find that Kassadin in 3.
Yeah, worth noting as well that we do have a strong situation going on here with the fact that like we have this dramatic take as well. Like you saw the fact that 62nd did push towards that level 7, so like he's kind of paying the price right now, trying to not fade out entirely. Meanwhile, Robinson's now on that Tristana free here. Did lose his first fight after picking that one up, but who knows, might be able to deal some damage. If he's able to avoid that 8th place 62nd might be headed for right now, then that could make all the difference here and force a game for number 3.
And as I've been mentioning throughout this 4v4 format, it really is who goes out in 8th place first. If Robin goes out in 8th place, this gives Snowy the opportunity to roll down for the Kassadin. You're seeing he's staying above the 60-50 gold at the moment, and he's making sure that he can stay in range to try and hit that Kassadin 3.
All right, Wanmei doing a little bit of board reorganization here. Going to be using the Callista as the carry for the time being, bring the Witchcraft in and having the Nasus as the frontline unit up against Michael on the other side. Of course, that Radiant Blue buff, the Blue Blessings you mentioned before, hopefully soon we'll be joined by some further itemization to give this backline some real punch. But even now, in its current form, it's looking pretty damn good.
I mean, as I mentioned, though, that 4-2 roll down is so important for Wanmei. Hasn't hit really a single upgrade. He had one upgraded unit on his board, and that was it. Nasus 1, Callista 1, and Wanmei is going to start falling down this scoreboard very rapidly, and it's going to look really awkward for him coming into this next few rounds.
And that's kind of the risk that you take when you are going to go center around these 4 curse units. We've been speaking about it all weekend so far. The common one is so good because she's so stable, and that really helps out the line. But most of the time, you do need to find those other 2-star upgrades for that front line at the bottom side. Like Nasus, to be speaking about how strong he is as a front line as well here. And again, you're pointing this out now, even with that prismatic ticket, Peter, 62nd might have to make use of the lesser champion Duke just to get a front line going.
Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal at all. Still though, I mean, I think we're going to be throwing in a few of those items just to get online for the time being. 62nd has got nothing left in the bank. I mean, Stuart, we were talking before about having this huge reserve to make sure you can just use the interest to keep rolling. In this case, 62nd will just have to hope he can get the prismatic hits off of just natural rerolls.
Just hoping and praying right now that he can hit some of these 3-stars, because as you're seeing on the other side, replay, this Mordekaiser on the front line is tanking up quite a lot of damage so far, but not too sure if it's going to be enough. The crowd control does come in, but maybe that Karma 2 can be a huge difference for 62nd. With this reroll coming through, that Karma 2 is holding a lot of gold for 62nd, but allows him to win the round.
It is the best way for him to cap out the board as well, right? Getting that Karma 2 and being a secondary holder of any secondary AP items coming through. As you're talking about, the utility he brings to the table is absolutely incredible as well.
Do want to just bring into the conversation something which happened at the tail end of that round. Robinson took a heavy loss. He's down to 12 HP with almost no gold in the bank at all. Stuart, you're talking about trying to stay out of 8th place. Robinson seems to be destined for it.
It's so difficult. I mean, do you ever get into a situation where you maybe sell the Kassadins to try and hit a couple of your 3-stars? It really depends, but you can see right now, he's still only level 6. He hasn't been leveling at all. He's been rolling trying to deny units, kind of playing that sacking role that we've kind of been talking about in this 4v4 format. But unfortunately, if Robin loses the next round, he could be out because it is stage 5. You are going to be taking a lot of stage damage right now. And if he's out, it allows Snowy to keep going. But on the right-hand side, 60 Second does hit that frontline Galio, so it does give him a little bit more time for his Karma and his Syndra to scale up.
As we've known here, Michael on a 5-win streak as well right now. One off of that Syndra, but as you're talking about, double the frontline upgrades coming through now. Lizard Champion Duplicator committed now to get that Rumble ready to go.
All right, Michael, let's see what you've got for us. Currently win streaking, but of course, Robin Songs has much more immediate concerns. Especially to be the one, we can now see the Castins have been sold. Snowy's going to be smiling because his potential in this game has just been fully unlocked. Robin Songs, I think at this point, might well be able to take down the Castin and stay alive, but now the pool is open and Snowy is just waiting to hit.
There is so much to actually break down this fight that actually didn't happen in this fight, right? Snowy rolling down all the way to 10 gold didn't hit any Castins. Robin saw that as an advantage. He was like, okay, you're not hitting any Castins, you don't have enough gold, I'm going to sell the Castins, level up, and he wins the fight. That's such a huge win here for Toronto Ultra and for Robin as well to try and make sure he can stay out of 8th place.
And look at just in general like how much damage the Toronto Ultra right now currently has, right? You're looking at Michael 37-6, but he's been able to continue to just pull that off. Relic has been coasting on top of the standings for quite a while with a ton of HP to work with. And again, even if Robin does go out in 8, I'm going to hammer this point home yet again. The more damage, the more disruption you can do, the less HP will the Twisted Minds team have to work with. It'll be much more difficult for them to kind of balance things out.
Well, I think it's absolutely true. You've got players who put out player damage, you've got players who put out comp damage. And I think that's what Robin Songs has done here. He's been fighting valiantly, being so selfless to give up so much for himself. Goes up against Relic now, who's towards the top end. I think maybe Robin Songs can hold on here for another round, but you know, 60-second Huamier, they're in the 20s. It's going to take a while for Robin to have the possibility of breaking out. Does manage to cut through the backline, and Robin, it's tight, but he holds on.
Very good loss here as well, but a nice handshake between the two Toronto Ultra players here. And again, you're kind of highlighting this as well here now, looking at Huamier taking a huge amount of damage as well, Stuart.
Yeah, Huamier now the same HP as Robin now near the bottom. This is such a huge fight now as well to see if Huamier can actually stabilize his board. He's the player that we saw in stage 4 go for that huge roll down, play for tempo, couldn't find the upgrades that he wanted. And maybe Robin, with that level up to level 7 now, is actually going to be able to stabilize with his boards.
I mean, looking at the two of them, Wheater, between these two, which do you have more faith in making out of 8th?
I think that when we're looking at this side by side here, I think that the big kicker here right now for Huamier is the lack of that Kalista too. It is the free itemized carry here in the backline, but now we're looking at this a very important fight here, the head-to-head for the 8th spot and potential of opening up this entire game, Peter.
This is absolutely massive. Robin Songs has held out so much longer than we expected. The Nasus taking the brunt of the damage in the early going. The front line is starting to fall, and onto the back line, Robin Songs in major trouble. The Kalista may not be at full power, but Robin Songs gets absolutely swept out of the way.
Just dying in the end as well, unfortunately. The upgrades coming in for the front line was a huge difference there for Huamier. Nasus tanking up so much damage in the end from the Tristana, from the Kog'Maw, and gives them a huge advantage.
You see here right now, again, just trying to get a full scope of the game here in the downtime of the carousel here. Replay has been holding on to some units, but now has sold those units, so no longer a part of the game plan for the Ultra.
All right, so looking forward to the rest of the game. As you pointed out before, you know, the good news for Toronto, they've still got Relic and Michael in good position at the top. It feels like a lot of emphasis now on replay to try and not at least go out in 7th.
Big thing here, you do have that huge massive Mordekaiser as that 3-star tank. We do know it is a kind of an alternative now for this Syndra board. Not going for the Syndra 3-star, more going for frontline so the Syndra can keep on scaling as well. Does also have the Vanguard almost to get more shield in.
Maybe we misheard here. Maybe he said he hadn't sold yet. Right? Because like looking at the bench here now, still 5 copies of Kassadin being held away from Snowy right now as a part of the game plan here for replay.
Yeah, just passing the buck and absolutely getting through there. We'll see how replay does against 60-second, who barely has more HP. So you're calling out the Mordekaiser. Actually going to be there just specifically protecting the Syndra The Syndra's both on the right-hand side. Whichever tank falls first is going to be huge.
Very important thing to note here as well. Right now, there's a Seraph 2 on the bench for 60 seconds here. We saw like how much work that was able to do in the previous game, and it's going to be no difference right now.
Oh, very close to the tail end, but it's not quite enough damage. Replay is going to be able to hold on here thanks to some well-played CC.
One more Zeref cast.
And a barely live karma. Those Zeref casts again, we've got the heal. It's to a photo finish.
Very, very close here. And sometimes you might wonder, did that singular chain vest on the bench, would that make the difference here? Right? There was some very fine margins working out here. And replay holding on to 6 copies of Kassadin on the bench here, sacrificing 12 gold and even much more accumulatively over the course of the entire game. And that's just the point of the 4v4 format.
We just saw the HP as well. There is 12 HP difference right now between the 1st and 7th place. It all comes down to matchmaking. It all comes down to positioning and making sure that you can put your strongest boards out there, because every single placement is going to matter.
It couldn't be more volatile. Michael going up against replay on the right-hand side, 60-second against Relic on the left. Going to focus the left-hand side for just a little bit, because we've got ourselves some very action down there. We've got a breakthrough though. Relic's in major trouble on the right-hand side. Michael is cutting through the front line as well. Good CC will bring down some of that damage. Edge of Night on the Karma, not ideal, but the casts are almost good enough. Michael takes the hit.
2 players from the Toronto Ultra going out here at the bottom 3, meaning that Twisted Minds have done it. They have won 2 games today, coming out of the lower bracket, and now found their way in towards the semi-finals here. Replay, it's lonely at the top, especially when it doesn't give you or your team anything here. Great play from Twisted Minds.
Stuart, I think it was absolutely right to point out how volatile the last round was, and just like that, it's been an incredible journey for Toronto Ultra to get to this point, driven by the need to prove themselves. Just in this case, Twisted Minds, but the difference of a single round, we could be looking at a 3rd game.
The step up here from these players from Twisted Minds, that big difference between day number 1, that disappointment that they had to go through in day number 1, to come back, to go through that lower bracket in their group, to now make it all the way into the semi-finals. You can see the heartbreak at the moment on Toronto Ultra's faces. They were this close. 1 round difference, that's all it took. They just lost a few more rounds with too many units, and that means that 3 of the players go in the bottom 4.
And they came in, right? They looked like the team yesterday that had it all figured out, all the game plans down here, but Twisted Minds, they have just been scaling all throughout the tournament, have been doing absolutely amazing. Massive congratulations to them here. It's just like strong showcasing here. Even with all of the 9 going on here, Snowy finally gets to make use of that Kassadin free he's been playing for since 2-1.
Oh boy, yeah, a game spent trying to deny Snowy, and it just didn't seem like it did anything at all. Surely it would have been a much harder game to win with a Kassadin 3, but multiple players from Toronto trying to make it work, trying to keep Snowy at bay. He will actually go out in this round, but it doesn't matter anymore. With Twisted Minds, you guys were talking about this before, they lost their first series, they came back, took their revenge on MSJ, and now they're moving forwards to the semis.
Big thing, I feel like the difference with Snowy being able to stabilize his board with the 2 costs is that Pandora's. That first augment right at the start of the game, giving Kassadin the perfect best in slot items. You also have the best in slot items for the Kalista. It's going to go out in 4th place, but the job is done. Everyone on Toronto Ultra was holding these units. Replay, Relic, Robin as well. There were so many castings outside the board, but because of itemization, because of that radiant item for Snowy, it meant that he can stabilize with this 2-star casting.
So we knew we had the other quarterfinal going on while this was happening to look for the opponent of this series. We know the first part will be Twisted Mind. What will be the second?
Tomorrow they'll be facing off against the Korean powerhouse in T1, a team that a lot of people said they've adapted their own style after playing them in scrims now, and they're just showcasing that you can't do much better than the original T1. Going all the way to the semis as well here should be the one fantastic matchup tomorrow.
I can't wait to look forward to it. For now, of course, we just got the victory lap replay. It's a cruel irony indeed. We wanted to see Replay get his time in the sun and the ton, but Stuart, it's only at the point where it makes no difference at all.
It's not going to make any difference, but I feel like Toronto Ultra should definitely leave with their heads held high, right? You know, coming into this tournament, no one really believed in them. You know, not everyone was thinking like, oh, can these players step up to the plate? Being able to beat the likes of Falcons 2-0, no one saw that coming. No one saw them coming in as the first seed as well. But I think it's just Twisted Minds just adapting their play day by day, analyzing the data, making sure that they can play the right compositions at the right times as well. And it's been a big difference for them as well. And I feel like they are actually on the momentum going into the semi-finals and could be one of the favorites coming into this tournament.
And we see right now just what they were playing for a second ago, that trophy at the front of the stage here now. You see still focusing, you're just trying to close out the game to the best of their ability, but they can already now start thinking about what they're going to have to figure out for a game plan tomorrow, because again, it's worth noting they played one more game. T1 will have a much easier time trying to figure out what is the specific roles, who do they have to target on the likes of this Twisted Minds team to get the upper edge.
Well, I mean, gentlemen, based on what you've seen in the tournament so far, I'm going to kind of jump ahead of analyst sets in the future. Between T1 and Twisted Minds, from the games we've seen up at the tournament at this point, who are you favoring tomorrow?
It has to be T1, right? I think like even if Twisted Minds have looked in amazing form today here, I think that just this T1 team that just played out of their mind this entire tournament, right? And with the fact that you have the likes of Dooney, Suni, SCSC, Binsum, and Bobe just firing on all cylinders, a very scary team in their own right. Very much like we saw with Vitality in the other side of the bracket, right? A team where if all of the pieces came together, it would be absolutely scary.
Yeah, the only two unbeaten teams really left in the tournament now with T1 and Vitality we saw in the previous series as well. So both of them definitely have the momentum. But honestly, I feel like if 60 Second and Juanmei can step up tomorrow as well, they've been two really, really huge players for this team. And they've been the main reason why they're able to get this victory.
Oh my gosh, sorry, that camera really caught my eye there, just looking at the heartbreak on Rowan's face there. Just being forced to wait out these last few moments knowing that everything has slipped away from you. It's been an incredibly hard-fought series, but of course the best is yet to come tomorrow. Both semi-finals and the best of 5 grand finals. We really feel like, honestly, we've ended up with an incredible caliber of teams heading into the final stretch.
Oh, and this is going to end with a Cillian. It is indeed going to end with a Cillian here. Now look at the celebration in cross of your screen here. Again, very muted celebrations for now. They know the job is not finished. They have another game tomorrow and then potentially that best of 5 grand finals as well.
Well, gentle friends, we will have to say goodbye to Toronto Ultra. Their keys will be crushed as much as they looked like they just could not believe how it all ended right there. An incredible run from 2-0 versus OSP, 2-1 versus the Falcons themselves. An incredible run to even get to this point.
I feel like Twisted Minds as well. We talk about the bootcamp from Toronto Ultra, but we know that Twisted Minds have also had the same bootcamp themselves, right? They've been able to come to Saudi Arabia a little bit earlier to make sure they can adjust to the times. They can adjust to playing in this kind of LAN environment as well. And, you know, seeing the likes of 60 Second and Juan, they step up as well. We know both these players throughout years and years of playing TFT. These are two considered the GOATs in TFT as well, right?
Yeah, and that's the exact thing to keep in mind here as well. If Juanmei and this Twisted Mind roster is able to take it all the way to a victory, there will no longer be any discussion about who the undisputed greatest player of all time will be. It has to be Juanmei if they're able to go all the way.
It's quite a challenge that lies before them, but what we saw in this game is promising indeed. A respectful display on both sides, but let's just run it through briefly again. This last section of the game where it could have swung either way.
It all came down to one round, that 12 HP difference in the end as well. You're seeing that fight, the team kill in the end by Replay. Just one extra unit could have made a huge difference there for Replay. But I feel like in terms of being able to hold the units, Snowy being able to stabilize his board, it's crazy how Snowy outplays most of the players on Toronto Ultra, right? Only playing the 2-star casting, going all the way to level 8, but with that Pandora's box, making sure that he gets the best in slot items, allowed him to kept on winning.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah, I think it's a testament, again, exactly to the whole team, but to Snowy in particular, to still make that work. You know, of course, we're talking a little bit about the itemization of the casting and still that flexibility there. The Raiden Nash is doing incredible work.
Yeah, the National Skiff are just such a powerful item. We really got to see one of the big adaptations over the course of the tournament, right? Again, we saw so many different casting builds on day one. They all had great success, but it does seem like everyone has kind of landed on that Nash as being that best in slot for the unit. And again, it will stabilize on that 2-star casting that you were talking about.
All right, gentle friends, we're heading down to the stage because we've got some words from our host. So we'll see you again soon. That's the end of the cast for now.
Thank you so much, guys. I have Snowy from Team Twisted Minds after that amazing 2-0 against Toronto Ultra. Who would have thought that they could do it? But before we start this interview, I have Replay here to hand over the key for it to be crossed later on to Snowy. So please, if you can, hand over your key. Thank you so much. And thank you for playing on this tournament and congratulations on getting that top 8. But now we have so many things to talk about for this tournament and this match specifically. You guys started the whole tournament on a rocky foot. You have lost against MSJ, but then you won against them. You knocked out Carmen Corp. You were able to go on a 6-win streak. Nothing was stopping you. So what changed from that first day?
他问你的一个问题就是你们一开始比赛的时候，就正标比赛的时候，你们没有就像很困难的时候，你们输了第一个、第二个游戏，然后后面你们连续赢了6个游戏、6个比赛，然后你们有什么样的改变？
我觉得可能我们一直都是这样的打法，我没有改变过，只是在刚开始上来的2场比赛里边有一些小小的失误，但是我们很快就调整好了，然后就像我们平时做的那样，所以我们可以一直赢下来。
We didn't change a lot actually. We played as we played before, but the first 2 games the problem was we had some errors that we were facing, and we fixed them, and now we play good.
I mean, it seems like you guys are geared up and ready to face any of the teams that we have. But at the same time, tomorrow you guys are facing T1, the powerhouse, the Korean powerhouse that has been unstoppable in the tournament so far. Is there any preparations that you guys have special for them, or how do you think you will do in this match?
OK， 这明天你们要跟 T1、T1 比赛的，然后 T1 目前来说是一个很厉害的一个团队，然后你们有什么样的准备呢？
我们有在训练赛经常去跟 T1 进行对战，所以我觉得我们并不害怕 T1。我也相信我跟我的队友是最好的队友，我们一定可以击败他们。
We used to play with T1 before we play with them, and I think there's no big issue with us that we play against them. We're confident, and I believe in my team. Actually, we will play and we will win.
I mean, I love the confidence, and you guys are 2 steps away from heading to the grand final. So again, congratulations on locking top 4 so far in the tournament, and good luck for your match tomorrow. But for now, let's send it back to the studio to talk more about the match.
Twisted Minds are the ones to be putting themselves in that semi-final, and unfortunately, Toronto Ultra, this is the end of the road for them this time around. Coming into this matchup, we had a little bit of a prediction on the desk here, and the analysts that I had on at the time, guess what? They were wrong.
Yeah, the Toronto Ultra was performing well, but actually here, Twisted Minds did amazing. This is a masterclass of 4v4 for them, and the meta has matured so much, very heavily on the reroll, Panda.
We thought Toronto Ultra would replicate what we saw from Vitality across those 6 games that they played. They were flawless. Toronto Ultra could not do the same. A very tough opponent, and overall, I think a very close game. We saw at the end there, 20 HP and below for every single player in that game too.
Twisted Mind just came back with a vengeance right here. 3 blowouts in 4 games played today. They got their vengeance on MSJ and closed out the quarterfinals against Toronto.
Replay was actually performing amazing also, and we have to recognize this. Both teams playing amazing, both individually and as a teamwork, Ginny.
Yeah, and the teamwork has been the thing that's been coming up time and time again in terms of that term that seems to be carrying the teams over the finish line. Like, yes, you can be great individually. Teamwork is still really important, and I feel like the more we're seeing teams in this tournament, the more time they're given to compete here, the more that is something that they're refining.
Yeah, the more we've been in days, the less Syndra 3 that we've been watching. That's
right?
good to see.
I wonder why.
But, yeah, but the adaptation have to wait. Even the heroes of the teams are not the ones who play Syndra. They're the ones that are finding an out to go to level 8, playing tempo, and finding maybe some possibility that was hidden before, but now it's being recognized. So good to see.
I will say, though, Twisted Mind's still sticking very heavily low to the ground. A lot of Syndra players, they're happy to run 3 Syndra players in the early game and just do a full bench court press. Very high pressure throughout all the games. I think the CN style is going to go up against a T1 style, and we're going to see which one best.
And the contrast with Vitality as well. Vitality games so much tempo flex, moving to level 8, playing around every single forecast in the game, really, which was a surprise in day 3. We see the meta's not solved yet. In this series, complete opposite. Everyone playing reroll, griefing each other. There was like, I think every single Syndra was out of the pool by the end of the game. The Castons were being held, the Coglins were being held.
Something as well that we were hearing from Fnatic earlier today was the fact that because Vitality had the chance to scrim with T1, they had an opportunity to copy their playstyle. And I feel like as we're moving on in this tournament, even though it's only been 3 days at this point, we're seeing a lot of changes. We're seeing adaptations to the meta, we're seeing teams come up with new things. So if anything, moving forward, I feel like T1 could still have an ace up their sleeves that we haven't seen yet, which is pretty exciting too.
Yeah, 100%. Is the refine of the tactics here in the 4v4. They already have communication. They already know how to play tempo, as you were saying, Clement. They already know how to play the reroll meta. But now is who gets the chance, who does that additional detail that will make the difference. So the small details so far it will be the difference tomorrow. Tomorrow we have semifinals, finals,
and the finals.
And the finals. It will be so hyped.
I know. Really exciting to see what's going to be happening tomorrow. But we also have the MVP for this series particularly, and it will be 60-second from the side of Twisted Minds. A phenomenal performance, and I think 17 round wins, hey, not too shabby. He should be very happy with that.
This is the player with the most points during the open qualifier. They rely on him as the ace of the team, and this is what he's known for. Everyone copies him at the start of the split to see how you outcap your boards. Another strong performance from him and Wanmi in game 2.
And he's also a mechanical APM god. I think in a 4v4 format where you're overloaded with so much information, so much communication, we've seen so many teams have a hard time slamming items in time, picking the right components to slam. Being mechanically sound is so relevant in terms of making sure you're not making any small mistakes, especially when everyone is under 20 HP and every single fight might matter to make it to the semis.
And also I want to recognize that both Wanmi and 60-second, they're streamers also, and they're big streamers on the Chinese
the influencer
server.
showdown in the final.
That's the possibility, and that's one of the possibilities we'll have for the finals. They will not face off before, but that could be the end game for this 4v4.
And we get to see the Key Crush live as well as it happens and it takes place, because again, another key added to the tally for Twisted Mind particularly. They've had a phenomenal run so far. They're doing really well, and they just keep adding them on, you know, like just another one. I mean, maybe in the trophy, who knows, right?
Yeah, for sure. Clement, we're seeing it now. There's a trophy being broken down. This is your favorite part, maybe?
No, I was just looking at Wanmi. He's trying to figure out how to crush
you can't be good at everything in life, Clement, okay? He's so good at TFT, there has to be a lack of skill somewhere, and maybe it is in crushing other players' dreams.
I just want to say this is a huge moment for Wanmi. He has been in conversation in the GOAT for a long time, but this split, especially since he hasn't been to Worlds, hasn't been to the TLC Regionals, he's been asking himself, am I a thing of the past? This is a statement match for him. He's going into the quarterfinals. If he takes T1, if he takes the crown finally, there can't be no doubts that Wanmi is back.
But are there any doubts in our minds that they'll be able to do this? Because this, for me, was a very convincing and dominant win from the side of Twisted Mind. So going up for them tomorrow against T1, how do you think that's going to be going? What can Twisted Mind bring from today into tomorrow to keep it going?
We mentioned T1, they've been copied, but I think that's more in terms of the framework for 4v4, it being such a new format, it not really being developed at a high level. I think across these 3 days, teams have started with a base framework, but they've gone in very different directions. They've hit their own optimizations, their own modifications in communication, in the skill sets they thrive in. And right now, there's some teams like Vitality and Twisted Minds who I think have hit that next gear, and they might be the favorites coming to tomorrow.
For T1, they're a team that has a very clear cap-out player. CSCS, the MVP today, doing really well. And then they have Bintim, who's the scrapper. He plays a lot of different lines and can make do with any type of board. I think the problem with Twisted Mind is, can they actually find the cap-out player? Because they're always playing low to the ground, especially against Toronto, that is almost famous for that. So it's a switch up in contrast of styles. Can they actually match up?
And now we have a new role, that are the rocks. We were hearing that from Milala earlier today. And those are so important because now the stacker of the one who's trying not to go 7s doesn't exist really. They're all trying to go 6th, 5th, 4th, and have one hero. So that placement always has to be there.
I have a question, Hupe. Yeah. Are the rocks the players or the support golems? Because I think there's some two very distinct but equally important rocks at play in most of these games.
Well, that's something that we're going to have to keep in mind for tomorrow particularly, but I think Toronto Ultra also we kind of need to an extent sing their praises because they came into this tournament and we had questions about them. We were wondering how it's going to be playing out. They took down Falcons. They made it all the way to the quarterfinals. So if I was a Toronto Ultra fan, I would be very proud.
Yeah, for sure. Toronto and also Pau were the only ones that meet a little. Also, Sira 10, having Polish, having people from Spain. In case of Toronto Ultra, people from NA, people from LATAM. So actually, the merge of cultures has been amazing because they have performed. And seeing that major regions are not only now by country, but actually wholly represented is amazing to see. For me, this is actually a dream.
Sounds so wholesome. But with that as well, we are done for today. So let's have a look at how exactly we got here and which teams we have ready for the semifinals tomorrow. Starting off with this tournament bracket where we can see Twisted Mind and T1 sitting pretty comfortably here in that semifinal. There is no lower bracket. I feel like this is something that we really have to hammer home. But Vitality, is it going to be Wolves? Is it going to be Na'Vi? Who are we slotting in there?
I think Na'Vi has good momentum. I think Wolves started off on the wrong foot, but equally so, they've regained that footing yesterday especially, and then coming into today as well. I really, whoever wins that match, I think will deserve it. It's going to be a close one. But all in all, I think the bottom side of the bracket might be the harder one in terms of that finalist.
And I think it's going to come down to whoever like Jipak or Lisao, the two big aces of their respective teams. Lisao playing a lot of flexible games, and Jipak, like we saw in the Falcon series, being able to perform. It's going to come down to those two and to see who's going to face Vitality.
I mean, we have Twisted Mind against T1 as well as our second matchup today, and the winner of that will be heading into the final. The loser will have their key crushed, and this is very much a testament of, I mean, we've seen it in other games, we've seen it in other titles where you have China going up against Korea, and it's always a neck-on-neck race, so I'm excited to see how that one plays out here in TFT.
Yeah, that's the hype matchup for tomorrow. Obviously, Vitality is the hype players or the hype.
They haven't lost yet. They have to be.
Yeah, they haven't lost. So it's amazing. And of course, tomorrow it will be best of 3, 2 games, and then in the final it will be best of 5. Will it change in the best of 5? Do we actually accumulate all the knowledge that we have been so far and seen the greatest gameplay of 4v4? That's actually what we all want to see.
Or maybe they have something up their sleeves that we're going to be seeing tomorrow. I think a lot of new things that we can be expecting, but either way, let's have a look at the Kiria plays of the day, because today is indeed done and dusted. Let's start off with the first one coming through from Na'Vi. I mean, I want to talk us through every single one of these plays because so far the day has been exciting and has been full of upsets too.
Yeah, Na'Vi getting perfect here with the Kalista, having the chance to do it. They already have someone in the bottom 4 Falcons, and they already needed this win. Falcon with an 8 and a 7s. They only needed at 1 and a 2. That was the only possibility. So now Na'Vi taking this win, the huge upset for the Falcons. And as you said, this gave them so much tempo. And even though they're losing now against Wolf 1-0, they could bring it back for sure.
And the meta relevance of Kalista on this day 3, I think she's really started to rise up in the kind of roll down order for most players. It used to be only Fiora, used to be only Karma. Now players who have built Rage Blade in the early game are seeing Kalista on their stage 4 roll down and saying, you know what, I'm going to go for this Kalista too. I'm going to look for that stability point
kind
in
of
stage 4.
New tech coming out from China as well. As we see the stack lineup of the Nasus, the Fiora, and of course the Kalista in the very end, kind of focusing all the damage and really opening a new page for the 4-cost flexible lines.
Well, I'm going to see whether or not tomorrow we're going to be seeing more Kalista. I feel like today's particularly, Syndra has still been there, but it hasn't been as much as the forefront as we were seeing it as in day 1 and day 2. What are we putting that down to? Is it time the team has to like go through the set and figure out how they want to approach it? Is it just